is the Seattle School Traffic Safety Committee. I'm Noah Gooder, I'm the committee chair. We have few people online. Is there anybody here for public comments?
Yeah, it's Lee Brush.
Hello.
Hi, Lee. Are you with us, Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Did you want the public comment now or later? Or?
Yeah, we'll do it now.
Okay. Let's see. I'm getting there. Okay. I was here to talk about. I'm Lee Brush, a former member of the School Traffic Safety Committee, and I'm here to talk about Aurora. Obviously, the reimagining of Aurora will take significant time, likely over many years. During that time, many different concepts will arise at various times. Design concepts are likely to be fluid over that time. Major changes to the ADA as it applies to Type 2 public projects, including roads, were finalized and adopted in late 2023, just a few months ago. They're major changes. They are going through the rulemaking process right now before they can actually be enforced. But the rulemaking progress is quite far along. They will have significant impacts on what is legally required on public works. The other thing that's happening, of course, is many people will be asserting their own varied viewpoints during that time. And many electeds and decision makers will come and go during that time, each with their own predilections. The Aurora Imagine Coalition has posted on their website a summary of the issues and the response and suggestions about SDOT's current concepts. And I'll shortly put that on a link to that on the on chat. But there are important things that must be done before everything's finalized in the interim. And SDOT realizes that and is doing some interim projects as we speak. As a former member of this School Traffic Safety Committee, I'm very aware of the dangers Aurora presents to the students of nearby schools and how, because of that, it has been unusually difficult to hire and retain crossing guards on Aurora at 92nd. Recently, state law requires recently, state law regarding school zones and enforcement cameras was changed. We believe that SDOT should actively pursue every avenue that those changes allowed to apply school zones and enforcement cameras in every instance where a state route to school crosses Aurora. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee. We miss your expertise.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I'm getting old.
Hey Lee, do you want to tell us, you said you'd put the link in the chat, but if we were Googling it or on your website, what's the title of this so that we can see the Aurora Reimagined Coalition's response to SDOT's alternatives?
Yeah, I'll put that on chat right now. It's, I have, oh,
What if we
it'll
don't?
take me a bit.
In a
essentially-
live meeting, we don't necessarily have computers, so could you just
Yeah.
read it to us?
Essentially on to summarize, we encourage SDOT to do what we're excited about what SDOT is doing. However, they have left out a couple of things. They have not addressed the bridge, the railroad bridge, nor have they addressed the segment through the Woodland Park. And those are key, absolutely key issues on the capacity of Aurora, and they'll set the whole limitation for Aurora. Now, some of that, for instance, the bridge is up to the state, but Seattle, while they're looking at Aurora, actually has to begin realizing what it's like, what the limitations are, at least say what their limitations are, and what they have done with ASDOT, with WashDOT, and begin to get into that. In addition, along Woodland Park, the zoo is right now doing their master plan for the next many years. And parks and the zoo will be working together on that. And again, that is absolutely essential to look at how what the road is like as it goes through Woodland Park. And those are the two really prime concerns that we have about the thing. I could go into a lot more, but I think that's a general view.
Mhm. Thank you, Lee. From your experience both with or Imagine Coalition and with this committee, what would you believe would be the most beneficial thing for the committee to do or avenue to go down for the Aurora project?
I would suggest number one is push for more school zones and enforcement cameras along Aurora as part of the interim work that they're doing before they get to the whole conception of the entirety of Aurora. I think that's absolutely essential. Secondly, I would push for more understanding and more concern by SDOT about the bridge and the area through Woodland Park.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else has any other questions for Lee? Okay. Thank you, Lee.
Okay, and I'll get that a link to on the chat very shortly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
Is there anybody else here for public comments? Okay. We're a little bit out of schedule. Danny, are you online already?
I am here, and I am joined by my colleague, Rachel DeCordova from King County Metro as well. Good to be with you all this morning. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining.
I think we're gonna go ahead and share screen. And yeah, we can give this to 15 minutes. Go till 9. Awesome. Well, we'll just start off with some introductions because I think the last time I came to this committee was maybe a couple years ago now. And since I know you'll have some new faces. So my name is Danny Harula. I'm the Youth Mobility Program co-manager here at King County Metro, along with my colleague. If you want to introduce yourself, Rachel.
Sure. Thanks for having us here today. My name is Rachel DeCordova, she, her pronouns, and like Danny mentioned, I co-manage our youth mobility program here at King County Metro.
And to give you all a brief overview of our program. Yes, for our presentation today, we're going to start with the program overview, and then we'll touch on topics like the Free Youth Transit Pass, our transit education program, and then some internships and leadership opportunities that we provide, and then we'll leave time for questions and discussion if you all have questions for us. And this is a picture of some of our awesome interns from last year touring the Central OMF light rail station, which is a very cool tour. If you all haven't done it, I believe they're open to the public now, like once a month. Sweet. So our youth mobility program is a newer program at Metro. I think we became fully funded as of the start of 2023. So it's a newer program, but we're really excited to be working in partnership with other transit agencies at a regional level. We work with local jurisdictions, school districts, community orgs that serve young people, and then, of course, youth leaders themselves. And our primary goals are to increase youth ridership on transit, as well as access to all mobility options. We do this through empowering youth through resources, materials, tools to navigate safely and confidently. And we sort of focus on connection as well as sustainability and that connection to their community and the environment. Yeah, so we also invest in youth leadership, helping youth sit on boards, etc., to connect them to economic and educational opportunities as well. And then our work is sort of divided into 4 pillars that we put all of our programming under. So this first pillar is really focused on access. So that looks like working potentially with people like our service planning and schools to really address service and how it's serving schools or youth. We work on our education programming, which is helping young people at the classroom level understand how to use our service, and we'll touch on that a little bit throughout the presentation. Safety or community needs. This is the #1 thing we hear from parents and students as a barrier to accessing our system. So we try to focus and develop projects around safety, and then opportunity, providing youth employment pathways in connection to green jobs. And then sort of underpinning all these project areas is the strategies of outreach, marketing, partnership, and evaluation to assess the impact of our efforts.
Great. So one of the elements of our work that we do a lot of outreach and messaging around is Free Youth Transit Pass, which you may be very familiar with. We'll chat a little bit more about that. So as you may know, in September 2022, Free Youth Transit was passed statewide. So anyone 18 and younger can ride transit for free throughout the state. And we often focus on our ORCA agency partners listed at the bottom of the screen here, and message across the region that our key top line message simply remains for youth of all ages, you can ride transit for free. Supporting messages include things like the fact that they are encouraged to use a free youth ORCA card to do so, but by no means are required to. The only exception there is the Seattle Monorail, which does require a youth ORCA card for free youth fare. But we really do focus on this key top line message through past to regional marketing campaigns, through our day-to-day outreach work, through working with our interns, any channel that we can. And we are proud of the fact that, across the region, this is a low barrier way of having youth be able to access transit, and that they aren't required to use a card, though they are encouraged to. And as we track how ridership is changing over time, we know that the data quality that we've had in the past has been inconsistent, but we know that youth likely make up somewhere in the ballpark of about 8 to 12% of ridership. And we know that most of them right now do opt to simply board to ride transit for free as opposed to using a card. And so we are within Metro exploring a lot of different ways to measure and estimate youth ridership. And as well, how does that tie to our program's impacts and evaluation of our different strategies? So we're pursuing efforts around things like observational counts and surveying and other methods of calculating and estimating youth ridership to understand how this trend will continue to change over time. And, we're not alone in this effort. I think many other partners and agencies across the state are having similar conversations about the best way to estimate these numbers. But we know anecdotally for sure that youth, families, teachers, community members really value the free fares for youth, and it's contributed to youth feeling more independent, being able to free up potentially parent or guardian time and bringing them where they need to go, things like that. And this ties into our transit education program. So if you pause for a minute and you think back to how you were first introduced to riding transit, which may be more recent, it may be a very long time ago, a family member might have shown you, maybe you figured it out by yourself because you wanted to or because you had to. And while we know that the fact that transit is free, that surpasses a key barrier for youth mobility. But we also know that in addition to the fare being free, youth also need the knowledge and the resources to be confident and comfortable riders on our system. And not everyone has that opportunity to learn about riding transit from a family member or a teacher or a friend. So in 2022, Metro worked with a consultant team to develop a transit education curriculum for use in classrooms, which included piloting these materials in over a dozen schools within King County. And there was a process of researching what was out there, gathering student feedback, taking those findings, and then putting together what you see here, which is a curriculum consisting of 3 different modules, focusing on different topics. The first one covers transit basics, like how to ride the bus, how to plan a trip. The second module introduces topics around safety resources and expectations for riders. And the third, covers sustainability topics and the role that transit plays in the larger community, including a focus on accessibility. And so to talk a little bit more about this module 2, the safety and riding right module, each module has a variety of types of materials for instructors or educators to use, like a guide, a set of activities, a video, slides, etc. And some of those activities, just to give you an example or a taste of what's in Module 2, are things like Riding Right Bingo for our younger students, because they are parsed out by age group. Or for older students, kind of doing a bit of acting out skits for different riding scenarios, or how to best communicate thoughts or concerns to Metro directly. What are those different channels? And practicing that potentially so you can leave comments and ask questions to Metro directly. So all these materials, you can find them at this link here on the screen. They are available online for any educator who wishes to use them really in any capacity. And we are also providing some staff to be teaching these in classrooms across the county that we're looking to kind of pick back up here in the last part of the 23-24 school year, and especially as we head into fall 2024. So more information to come there, but you please do feel free to peruse them at this website. We've heard really great feedback so far, and we're looking forward to updating these over time as well.
Awesome. And then I'll touch briefly on our internships and leadership opportunities that we have for young people. these are some pictures from our program last summer. We run a summer transit equity internship program for high school students that's really focused on career exposure. They learn about climate justice, urban planning, trades careers, kind of the whole variety of careers that go into operating a transit system. Really awesome program. And some other current and upcoming opportunities. We recently just wrapped up a recruitment for a youth cohort to sit on our Safe Equity Work Group. Our Safe Equity Work Group is a community group that provides community advisory assistance on a lot of the projects that fall under Metro's SAFE umbrella. And if you're not familiar with our SAFE program, it covers both our SAFE ambassadors, which are operators that are not driving a bus, but that are like providing customer service in priority areas. So they cover Jackson all the way up to like Washington Middle School and down near the International District Station. They're also in Renton and along parts of Rainier as well. So that's one of the elements of the SAFE program, as well as we have a behavioral health pilot down in Berrien, employing social workers to connect folks to resources. And then also our approach to fairs in general, as Metro rethinks its strategies, also falls under the purview of SAFE, and the community work group works on advising policy related to that. So we thought it was very important to recruit young people to serve on this task force. So we're going to be welcoming 3 to 5 young people to sit on that work group in a few weeks here, which is very exciting. We also have summer internships. We're still ironing out our opportunities for this summer, so more details coming soon, but we will definitely be sharing out soon once applications are live. And then Metro is also planning to host the second round of a youth transportation summit this year. If you all are familiar, SDOT hosted a youth transportation summit at the end of 2023, and we are hoping to build on the momentum that happened there and host another one at the end of this year, potentially with an emphasis on safety as the theme for that summit. And you are welcome to sign up for our e-newsletter. If you email one of us, it's in our signature line to sign up. But we have a semi-regular newsletter that just sort of shares out all the opportunities that we have coming up. It's great for educators to be on, students, anyone who's connected to young people. And yeah, I think that is what we have for you, but we are open. I think we have like about 6 minutes. We can take questions or open it up for discussion.
Just had one question. You talked a little bit about the age groups that the education programs are targeted at. You mentioned it was different by age.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. So we have basically 2 sets of curriculum materials, one for grades 2 through 5, and then one for grades 6 through 12. And so while the topics of the modules are largely the same, the approach to them and the specific messaging and the specific activities are tailored to the different age groups.
And beyond sort of general education on sort of how public transportation works, is it, like for the route planning, is it designed more about here's how to ride the bus to school, right? What are sort of the scenarios that you're trying to help educate on?
Yeah, great question. So it's a little bit of everything, I think, is the short answer. Like that first module is really focused on Transit 101 or King County Metro 101. If a student has really not interacted with the transit system before, it covers everything from here's how you can use an online, either Google Maps or our trip planner to plan a trip. Here's where you can see the route number on a bus physically. Here's how you pull the stop cord, things like that. And then as you go throughout the modules, it expands broadly to, where would you need to go from school or from home? And let's practice doing that then it moves into things like behaviors on the bus, as well as, what does priority seating mean if I see that sign, and how should I interact with that, to things like advocacy and sustainability that branch out more from the direct user experience of being a rider. So a little bit of everything, but certainly starting at the very beginning of assuming virtually no baseline knowledge of how to interact with the transit system.
I know that exact numbers are kind of hard to get. I mean, did you see any behavioral change with the rollout of free transit for youth?
I think in terms of like boarding behaviors, yes, I think largely because young people used to have to use Orca cards to board. And now they're, especially I think at school stops, more able to efficiently board through all doors if that's what's desired by the operator. Yes, so I think it's changed the way they board because there's much less Orca usage now. But in
So
terms
it's
of
easier for them to use, but harder for you to gauge who's riding and when.
yes, so the pros and cons of a very low barrier system, so that all youth can ride free. Yeah.
My kids, even my elementary schooler, hops on and off the bus. She'll take it 2 or 3 blocks. When I walk her to school, I see, I never used to see kids getting off the Metro bus, but now I see kids who live inside the walk zone. So they were probably walking before, but they hop the bus and take it to school by themselves now.
We've definitely heard similar anecdotes from students who appreciate it as an alternative to long or short walking trips when available to them.
Yes, yes. So I have heard that for students who miss the bus, like if they miss their school bus, they now have like an option to get to school.
That's nice.
How do you get a youth Orca card if you want one?
Yeah, great question. The easiest way is to go to the website freeyouthtransitpass.com. And that is kind of a one-stop shop for the region beyond just King County Metro, for our Orca partners as well, for obtaining a new card, replacing a card if you lost one, or just getting more information about how the program works. But essentially that link will direct you to the Orca website, where you're just like an adult card or a different type of Orca card, you can purchase a free youth card to be mailed to you.
My grandson rides the link and he's got his Orca card in his backpack and he puts his back up to the reader. He's like 9. It's really cute.
I have a question. So if we hear students saying buses are overcrowded or having any issues with using their passes, what's the best way to go about sharing those concerns or helping students find an avenue to share those concerns?
Yeah, I think there's multiple ways. I think there has been some Seattle high schools that have reached out to us directly, but I think if the students are reaching out directly to Metro through our customer comment form, that would get routed directly to service planning or scheduling, who's in charge of that route. And I know hearing it directly from a customer is important to us. And so I think if they're really seeing something at their route in their school, I think flagging it again for our service planners through the general customer comment forms. Yeah, that's the main way I would say, but also can also forward it to any staff member as well, like Rachel or I.
Yeah, and that metroyouth@kingcounty.gov email is a great way if you're not sure, if you know it's related to youth and for some reason the customer comment form is not the best avenue to go down. Please feel free to reach out about anything and we'll figure out the best person to answer it or address it.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, I have one last question. So the Safe Ambassador program, you said runs in a couple of areas. I think that's the other frequent concern that I have is students reporting like safety concerns or issues. So I could share, it's called the Safe Ambassador Program. Yeah, if you have, is there like information on where that operates on the website too? Okay.
I
We can
think
share more information about that. And to clarify, that ambassador program is separate from the youth mobility program. It's under our safety and fair enforcement programming. We work with them closely,
Okay.
but we'll share more information about their program and their work in more detail.
Okay.
In the chat here
And
too.
we reached out to them before this meeting just to see, and they shared some data that they had from tracking. They track their engagements with people, and they don't interact with like a ton of youth. Like, I don't think youth are necessarily often approaching them to initiate conversations. But based on their like tracking of customer interactions, most of the help that they've provided for young people is related to wayfinding.
Okay.
But yeah.
If I can speak one quick, and I'm just curious, looking, because it goes through 18 and, judging the age of an 18-year-old can be difficult. What, for students who maybe have trouble providing proof of age or, their parents don't help them get the ORCA card, how does that go if there's like a fair enforcement, who comes onto the bus? What sorts of proof do students need who are 18 years old, say?
Yeah. I think Metro hasn't had fair enforcement on the buses since for youth transit policy passed. And so as we are looking to reimagine our fair enforcement or fair education, those policies will need to be updated because it is now free and there is not necessarily any payment that a young person needs to have anymore. So that's part of why we're bringing youth onto the Safe Equity Work Group to help craft those policies.
Thanks.
But currently, our operators do not engage in fair enforcement. So if a young person looks young and gets on the bus for free, that is that. Because our
And
operators don't.
Same on the light rail? Is there no fair
The light-
enforcement right now?
Yes. I don't want to speak for the light rail. They do have a separate set of policies, and they do have fair ambassadors currently on their system that engage with young people, but I don't believe that they ask for ID, but they might be a great guest presenter for you all because I know that they've been out this whole time that free youth fairs have been in place and have revised their policies and engagement strategies slightly.
Thank you.
Just had one final question. I was going through the youth pass here. Can you talk a little bit about the choice to require the documentation for the youth pass? Because it's, I was actually looking at it's student ID or birth certificate.
Yes, that requirement for documentation,
that
to proof of age,
state law?
proof of age, essentially. Sorry?
Is that state law?
Sorry?
Sorry, is that state law or is that a decision that?
State law. No, I don't believe it's state law, but when Free Youth Transit passed, the only policy essentially that Metro passed that was new was we lowered the youth fare from $1.50 to $0. So the policies that were around proof of age and stuff have been around in place much longer than this program. They've been around as long as we've had a reduced youth fare, I would say. Yes, and it's also, if you do come and get a youth card in person, you wouldn't need documentation. It's just a visual verification of like you are a young person. So this is your birthday. Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank
Thanks
you.
for having
And
us.
Thank you.
yes,
And I'll
Thank
put
you
a couple
very
of
much.
links in the chat here as well for folks to view. Appreciate it.
keep on.
Okay, approval of minutes. Exciting stuff. Let's quickly go through the action item. Margaret, did you have a chance to reach out to your representative?
I emailed my new, wait, I'm sorry, yes. I contacted my city council member, and I have a follow-up staff person for her that I'm gonna be contacting, basically after this meeting.
Right? Mary Ellen, I know you sent an email yesterday. Do you want to give an overview
Of the, where we are
of state?
yeah, I know that that's on the agenda later, but I could do it now. Yeah.
We'll do it later. Sorry, I forgot my own agenda.
One thing I'll put in the notes, just a reminder to send me the the financial workup we talked about that. I talked to Kathy Moore and she was quite interested in who's my district announcement, in the departure thing.
Yeah,
And so the information that Mary Ellen's going to get about, what's the name of that school?
Alki?
Alki.
yeah, and that's,
Yes.
so I had followed up with SPS and they gave me information about the bike departure trigger that we discussed last time. And I
Mhm.
sent that along to Shonda Emery, because that was one we hadn't seen before, but we definitely want to capture it while we're in this process. But I didn't notice that they forgot to send me the financial info, so I will follow up again.
And if we're already talking about Elkai, just that you know, there had been another appeal, a new appeal.
Another appeal?
Another, yes.
Yeah.
What about-
There's always an appeal. It's never about parking. It's always about delaying the development. That's all it's about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so the underlying issue is neighbors' concern that the school is just gonna be too big for the site, and why they're not building it in a different site. Or expanding
Why are these
other-
kids getting
other
near
schools.
me?
Yes.
Why did I buy this house here next to a school and then I gotta live with the school?
Capital
Yeah.
Projects contacted me very,
Yeah, but
yeah,
like,
they
it's
were
such a
concerned
struggle.
yesterday and trying
Yeah.
to sort out what to do after the next appeal. So I met with them for like 45
Yeah.
minutes
Oh,
With who?
with Capital Projects.
I mean, it's
SPS, so,
doors.
yeah, they're like,
Rebuilt a lot of them. They don't.
what do we
build
do?
like
They,
that.
yeah, trying
They're
to
just
sort
building
stuff out. They
them.
might reach
You know
out to
what I
you
mean? Okay.
too.
Yeah, like I
Um,
assume the same neighbor does
yeah.
new houses
Okay.
built.
So.
You know what I
This is
mean?
no traffic
Yeah.
engineer, but they did talk about one idea they proposed. This is for Elki too. I met with some people with SPS yesterday, and they did talk about an idea to support more of walk and bike to school efforts for staff, if staff parking is a concern. So
do we have any sense of how much of, like, what percentage of their current staff lives in a place that is walkable or bikeable or?
data that we don't have.
Yeah.
That would be really nice to know, like who's commuting and how far.
Oh, that is such a, snapshot in time.
I do not understand where people get off on, with the idea that like saying that teachers are people who shouldn't park on my street. You know what I mean? Especially during the school day, during the business hours, when the people who do live in the neighborhood and are drivers regularly aren't there. What is the problem with teachers using parking on the street? Why do they not have the right to do that?
Street parking is
Yeah.
public.
Exactly.
And you did
Exactly.
not buy the right of way in front of your house.
You did
when you
not.
bought a house.
But why are teachers people who should not be parking on the street? This is an idea I do not understand. Yeah.
So, Brian did ask for a letter of support by the end of the
Yes.
week. Sorry, by the end of the month, not the end of the week.
The letter of support for what now?
For,
So they've gone through, they've redone.
Upholding the revised.
Yeah, so they've resubmitted, they've been granted their departure by the city again. It's been appealed again. It's going back to the hearing examiner. Now with more parking, this is the same hearing examiner who last time suggested that they should buy nearby houses, knock them down and build a parking lot in their decision. So they would like a letter of support saying, you know, to hope that they get past the hearing examiner this time.
Yes, and maybe let's, eminent domain, it's always an option.
Yeah.
Just
And
like,
and the intent of the letter of support, basically, we
Then-
feel this is a reasonable
the plan,
solution to the.
yeah, the plan as is seems reasonable, that we are concerned about the delay.
Yeah,
and,
delay and the cost of delays and.
Yes, and as the
And
So
the interagency body who reviews traffic safety around
Yeah.
schools, we give it the thumbs up.
Yeah, got it. I was just trying to say.
What else do we need to do to get it going?
So who wants to write a letter?
I've got you as the committee person.
Yeah. With Kelsey, reviewing and supporting.
You already read
I'm, yes, if,
You were ready with the answer.
yeah. Marion, I don't know what percentage of the reaction was like legitimate, oh my God, I really don't want to do it. And then what was it, tongue in cheek, but I'll be happy to take over if you don't want to do it. You just,
I mean,
Scott,
you can write the letter.
okay,
Well, the committee was
I'll
Margaret and Noah, so.
yes,
If you want somebody to proofread, but I'd
Yes,
rather proofread than write. so.
I will, yes, sure,
Yes.
you'll proofread and maybe fill up some missing data.
So according to that, Noah will write it and Margaret and Mary Ellen are
I'm gonna support,
support.
provide technical and emotional support.
Yes, exactly.
That's a tall order. Okay. Where are we?
Where are we on
Yes. Jammer, did you connect with Mentee San Angeli?
I did about the bike departure question, and I offered again, you know, because I'm an arborist and I deal with these tree questions day in and day out, but they haven't followed up yet. So I just told them I'm available if you want somebody to look at it. Yeah.
Right.
I don't recall the future topic on Rocks Hill.
That has been an ongoing future topic as if and when there's gonna be an update. Right.
Southwest, West Seattle, southwest of West Seattle.
And,
Is that your neighborhood, sort of?
Yeah.
yeah, and I can't remember the
Sounds like
the detail, but it was about,
Yeah,
Robin
had presented.
yes, about walking buses and,
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Is that it?
Yes.
I put the question mark because I didn't even know if we still should have it on the
I thought-
update, but nothing had
I thought
happened
we
about it.
followed up with That,
Yeah, at least our update was that I'm talking with our neighborhood greenways team because it's along the
Neighborhood
route.
Greenways.
And so it's kind of like on their list among many other things of places where we needed to improve crossing.
yeah,
So it's definitely on their radar.
because the Greenway takes a jog right there, right?
I think so.
Yeah, from 30th to 34th,
So the Rocks Hill,
which is, I'm not sure what the
and it
additional
sounds like
follow-up
we could,
was. Yeah,
So that's our same
could-
update that we had
okay.
before is that it's on the radar of our neighborhood greenways
Yeah.
team.
so we could remove it from
I would
the,
recommend resolving it.
okay, let's. Now we're behind schedule, and that.
So, motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, sorry, thank you, jeez,
Second.
all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstention? Motion passed. Thank you.
Now you're usually.
Okay,
I have a few updates while Diane is in Kauai.
Uh,
I know. That's my main update.
Nicely studying transportation issues, benchmarking.
Yes. We, Brooke is involved with this too. We're gonna, do a Play Street demo. So, people, yeah, it sounds like people know. Play streets, you can, close a residential street and have a block party. And we want more adoption of this citywide because we tend to get higher adoption in wealthier neighborhoods. And so we're partnering with our, with Kiana, who's on our Play Streets team, to do a demo event at Emerson Elementary in Rainier Beach, because that's where we're making one of their school streets permanent. So it'll be a way to show like, this is what you could do without even getting a permit. It's if you're on a healthy street or a school street, it's already closed to through traffic. So you can close it for a block party without even getting a permit.
So I don't know if it's gonna be helpful to you in any way, but I believe it's McNally Elementary, their fundraiser is a Play Street. They just close the street for a block
Yeah.
party.
Which
I think
school
it's
is that?
McNally Elementary.
Magnolia.
But if it's something that like our PTAs would like to know about,
Yeah.
of like, hey, or just parents, doesn't have to be PTA, right? Like you can have like a graduation party or year-end party or.
Exactly.
Or like, I know Bailey Gatzard is planning their field day and, but if like other school, because that's what Emerson
Bailey
is
Gesser did
doing.
close the street for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like other schools that are planning their field days
Mhm.
in June.
They can
it'd be
use
a
that
great
space.
opportunity. Is there a good structure for contacting multiple PTAs at once? Like I know there's a PTA conference in May, but is there some sort of
There is a Seattle PTA, but I don't think they're particularly
active?
active as in like a place to disseminate information.
No.
No, yeah.
My PTA experience is just gonna go school by school.
There are some regional like PTA presidents councils. There's informal chat and email groups, sort of kind of how
Mhm.
the PTA, but like they're basically like a listserv type of thing that somebody set up and is used for chats. But I know there's one in West Seattle, there's one in North Seattle, right? And they end up exchanging information that way.
There is a coalition for South Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
PTA.
one's
The
good.
funding.
There's also, there's
Yeah.
a group called All Together for Seattle Public Schools. It's just informal, but they send out newsletters and things and people have signed up for them from schools, you know, around the city. So if you want to get out information.
Okay.
Say that again.
All Together for Seattle Public Schools.
So it might take a little bit of work to assemble, but I bet it would be a one-time task of getting a couple of sort of groups where you could then help disseminate information
just a couple
directly with PTA presidents.
Yeah.
That's probably the best route.
This update is kind of, especially for Yvonne. I got to go out to Hawthorne Elementary School and shadow your crossing guard there, Thomas. He invited us, SDOT, to come out because he has concerns with drivers not stopping, even when he's putting his flag out on South Genesee Street. And so I went out there last Friday and it's always so fulfilling, heartwarming to see crossing guards do their work. It was just neat to see, you know, the kids sent off into their weekend, like in such a friendly way. And we're hoping to do a traffic calming project on Genesee as part of that.
Well,
And then-
Yvonne wanted me to tell you that her microphone and camera are not working.
Okay.
But I'm sure she appreciates the feedback.
I'm sure. Thank
Give us
you.
She'll give us a thumbs up or something.
And my last thing is we've been partnering with our Vision Zero team to look at where there's an overlap between signalize intersections that are close to schools and a safety analysis of where they need improvements, particularly focused on higher equity needs schools. And so based on that, just within the first quarter of this year, there are 19 intersections with improvements. So it's things like putting up no turn on red signs, which is one that we did at Aurora right by Robert Eagle's staff. And it's also retiming the signal, like giving pedestrians, sometimes it's giving pedestrians more time across or making it pedestrian recall so that you don't have to push the button. You just automatically get the headlight. And a lot of times it's leading pedestrian intervals, which is my favorite. Leading pedestrian intervals, so that's where pedestrians get to go first. They get a head start into the intersection, so that they get the right of way, and drivers are much, much more likely to yield.
I'm curious if there's any data. The thing I see at the leading pedestrian intervals is that the drivers who have already stopped are more likely to yield, but I see a lot of people running red lights because they know that there won't be cars coming, you know, so the drivers who might have stopped on a yellow are less inclined to do so. I don't know if there's any data about that.
I don't know.
I actually had a specific, I was gonna bring this up, specific neighbor complaint on this issue of where we put in, or ESSA put in a red light signal for a school, route to school, because it's a small street. It wouldn't have been there. It was done as part of the school, and the red light violations are awful. She actually took me over there. She's like, watch every time. And yes, like we watched 3 sequences and it was run 3 in a row. I'm just curious more generally about where there are concerns about red light violations for school safety improvements. Where's the best way to direct that? How to handle it?
A lot of times that's a symptom of speeding.
Yeah, no, it is.
People
It's
doing
on 35th.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah. And so.
The board comment was like, hey, we went and did this work. And as someone who crosses this, I'm worried that I really appreciate it, but it's not necessarily having the impact that I hoped it would. And I'm concerned about red light violations. Is there a way to follow up and say, hey, this is going on a lot? Is there any follow? I don't know if it's.
I mean, you're welcome to pass that on to me.
Yeah.
And then I can share with our signals team. Definitely something like automated enforcement for red light cameras.
Yeah, that's
it's
what.
very, it's a very involved process. To figure out which locations those should be. There's a lot of equity and implications of it. But still, it's helpful for people to know.
You know, that's where you miss 5-6 years ago, our policeman would, when we had a regular police force, he would go and do a couple of weeks of.
That's what, yeah, I figured that was not an option.
Yeah,
That used to be a really good option, and that would stop that.
Yeah.
Targeted.
Like up some days of.
The police meeting there, yeah.
But yeah, that was where the neighbor was jumping and I was like, hold on, I don't think that's likely.
We don't have enough policemen, yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I think it's worth documenting, hey, there was a neighborhood concern.
Yeah, what location is that?
35th and Finland. 35th is basically a drag strip in the morning.
35th.
It's a long known problem. They've had speed cameras on 35th over and over again.
And Finley.
Finley, yeah.
Okay.
35th Avenue Southwest and Southwest Finley Street.
Yeah,
Really
Gary.
traffic. Yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion.
I'm not-
Yeah, it's the remaining,
Yeah.
it's the remaining arterial in West Seattle that leads to the gateway. So this is a whole other broad topic about what's going to happen with 35th, but.
I wonder if Gary could give us an answer of who to, and
Yeah.
Yeah, this is more just general when there are citizen concerns about
Yes.
violations, what's the appropriate way to direct them?
If Gary could give us a targeted
Yeah.
speed trap.
or let us know, besides the non-emergency line, who do you
Yeah.
call?
Yeah, that's what I'm very interested in.
Yes.
The West Precinct knows this. If they wanted to write traffic tickets, they could have a great time all day sitting there, so.
And that would really help the school safety
It's
situation.
such a known
We
problem.
hijacked your SR.
Sorry.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
One good general question, sorry.
And there's other reasons besides SPD staffing, you know, that we're moving away from enforcement.
Yeah,
We've
sure.
dropped it as one of our E's for safe routes to school, you know, because of the equity, but
Yep,
I don't understand. You know. And those are all my updates.
thank you.
Okay.
I correctly sensed you right your end.
Yay. Okay, we're coming up on bike month, so it's gonna be super fun. I'm really excited. I just started putting out communications to the district. So if you all want to share that out with your networks, I know Noah is working on ordering a package already. Sweet. Yeah, but if you need any sort of like communications drafts for posting on Facebook or email to your school or a school news, I'm happy to draft those. Go ahead.
If you have a general one, you
Yeah.
wanna just send us all, like I have a few places I can share it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I will share that out with the group via email after this and May.
It's May.
Yeah,
And it's May
Planning
8th.
that.
Yeah.
Back to school day.
just really excited. Yeah, May 8th is Bike to School Day. May 17th is Bike Everywhere Day that Cascade puts on. Yeah, and I revamped, or I like made an additional page. Maybe I shared this last time, the Get Involved page from the SPS Walk, Bike, and Roll. So there's just a little bit more detailed information on connecting to programs that I'm aware of that have either done events in the past year or have regular programming. I expect that that's not totally inclusive of all of the programs that are happening. So just feel free to let me know if you know of other programs that aren't listed there. And yeah, so I could use help getting in touch with your channels, your people for Bike Month stuff. I think that's it. Oh, one last thing. Crossing Guard map. I connected with SPS GIS, but they were excited, and then they had some other big project come up, and so he just emailed me. He's like, "Hey, sorry, we're gonna have to do all hands on deck with this other thing, and then we can come back." But I'm gonna try to connect with you and Diane to get an SPS contact, because I think it would work really well just to use the or the SDOT maps as a base map, and then because they already have all the Crossing Guard locations, and just have one extra layer on that where we could put vacant or
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll need to check
And
ours
see
for
if-
accuracy.
true. Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah,
Sounds
and
good.
see if it's editable or what's, public. So that's it.
That'll be a really helpful thing even for people looking for jobs, to be able to
True.
see.
Yeah,
I think you might help recruitment having
that's
that.
a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Yvonne, do you have mic working? Yeah, well, I was hoping it. We could shame the mic into working.
Shaming, but they're working.
Maybe Steve has the, Yvonne.
Yeah,
you
That
can-
works for technology.
She provided an update in the chat, and that was that she got interest.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not, we did A for the record and B because we don't have I'm not in the
Yes.
chat, not in the meeting.
Interest from a Magnolia Elementary parent in being the crossing guard there, and so she's following up with them.
And we've been in the walk boundary subcommittee as we've been reviewing. We've actually found a few that were unfilled, and it turns out, like over the years, the boundaries for the school have shifted and they weren't needed. So we're going through and checking all those locations, finding a few that are, our fill percent isn't quite as bad as it looked because we have a few extras on there that don't belong anymore. So keep printing those off.
That is great. That would make our year-end report
Yeah.
a lot better, like.
I mean, we didn't actually hire more crossing guards, but.
But we lost.
Staffing percentages.
Exactly. The stats are way better.
Yeah.
Just lower the bar. That's.
Or we could
Okay.
get some other crossings that need guards that we.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll come up too.
Well, since we're ahead of schedule, I'll go ahead and do the legislative session update. if that's okay. So I was just looking yesterday to try and figure out what had passed and what had not, and the big news, as reported by Ryan Packer, is that the automated traffic tickets bills passed. And the big piece that we were hoping for is that the pool of people who are allowed to review the tickets can be expanded to any trained staff, not limited to police officers, although of course police officers can still do it. So it probably won't have an immediate effect because of union contract issues, but at least there's no longer a legislative hurdle to getting more staffing, in order to support the expansion. And so along with that, though, they also, the other key thing that passed was that it's much, state law is much less limiting on where you can put automated ticket cameras all of a sudden, so there's on both sides fewer limitations to being able to expand the program, but it's going to happen gradually. There are still some hurdles to get through, but it's not illegal anymore, so that's great.
Question about the language of the law. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
Do cities have to open up the pool? Could
They're allowed to.
They're allowed, okay, but the union could still.
Yeah, so
negotiate
it's,
off.
right. There's still real hurdles, but they're now allowed to place red light tickets. It's not a legal issue.
Yeah.
Where they can be, the schools are specifically on the list,
Mhm.
school areas of where they can be placed.
No, I'm talking
So-
about the people to review the tickets.
Yeah,
Like,
so
the
they're
union
not
could still-
required,
They're not required.
but they're allowed to, yes.
And can you remind me, is this one already governor signed or is it just passed legislation?
It's just passed. As I was looking at the bill digest, it doesn't look like the governor signed very many of them. They all say, on his desk still, so.
So just
I have to
FYI,
assume
it
it's-
could still potentially be.
Yeah, but the governor's office was explicitly supporting this one, because he's unlikely that he won't sign it, so.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a great look because he's like very pro.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a big win, and hopefully we'll start to see it. They've also they've tried to, with the fee structure and where the money goes, the requirement is to put the money into physical improvements in the vicinity of where the camera is, to prevent it from being treated like a source of funds, and instead that it should be, driving physical improvements that reduce speeding, reduce red light running where the camera is.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, and then
Because- yeah, okay.
3 years, you get all of the money from the tickets for physical improvements for 3 years. And after that, you have to start to put a quarter of the money into a state fund that goes towards pedestrian improvements. And the idea is that that's also an incentive, not for them to be permanent, but to get improvements on there
Yeah.
and no longer need them and move them. So
what?
But I think it was besides school zones. I think school zones still stayed local.
this is for all the expanded locations. And I don't think it changed the previous law that had already allowed the school zone change.
Yeah,
Interesting because where the expansions are now.
is all gonna be in low equity need areas.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then that
Kind of
means the
unfortunate.
improvements would be, yes, exactly. Because before, there was a disproportionate number of
Oh.
enforcement cameras in higher equity need areas. And
Oh.
so as part of the racial equity analysis, it was like, we need to spread this out. We're gonna do 0 in high equity need areas.
You
The
know,
rest will be,
The sad part is the people in the low equity needs often can't pay their tickets and they end up in jail. So, parents
But I mean,
As
the idea-
opposed to high equity where it's really
Yeah, so
useful.
that's why there was this change of
Yeah.
not putting additional in the high equity need areas.
But the concept with that was that we're going straight to the physical improvements in the high equity need
Yeah.
areas, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that they're not happening. It's probably just have to
Good. Yeah, because
check the
it's,
analysis,
I-
right?
Yeah, but we won't have the funding from, like the funding.
Oh, the plan was to use the funds from here to put the,
I don't think it was that direct, but.
Okay.
I just
It was
kind
gonna
of-
go into
But the
general
pot, the pot is gonna be small.
fund.
my issue was that the parents of the kids in the low equity area would end up, as a former elementary school counselor, people end up in jail for that. You know, you get people in jail. Oh, where's your dad? He's in jail. Why? Because he has traffic tickets he can't pay. I mean, that's just
Yeah, it's not right.
it's not, so I don't know if that's a really good use of.
well, I don't know the exact, how wide the vicinity is.
Yeah.
Well, there's, so you'll have to figure it out, but that is what they put in. They wanted to prevent it from being used as just a continuous source of funds.
Yeah.
So the
Which
solution
makes
was,
sense.
Yeah.
you have to put physical improvements where the camera is
Right, so that
as
we're
a
not just
go
relying-
to move the camera eventually. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then looking at school-related bills, unfortunately, the funding for school buses did not pass. The one that did pass is geared towards converting school buses to electric, which SPS is already on the way, and the amount of money that the legislature allocated for it for the next year is minuscule. And then there's a little bit of tweaks to funding for staff, but tiny compared to the size of the deficit that SPS is facing, and many other school districts around the state are also have huge deficits. It's gonna be like 10% of the deficit. Way to go, state legislature.
It was also a short session, and so there's like less likelihood of big amounts of funding,
Yeah,
less
but-
likelihood of big amounts of bills. So I think it'll also be interesting to see what happens in the next long session next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, SPS just announced this week that they are closing their
Yeah.
high school program that's geared towards students in
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a good
recreation.
thing. I'm just saying it's not.
Like,
as
it's
Oh,
like,
it's-
don't tell me wait till next year.
Wait.
It's just
What-
less surprising when like stuff doesn't, when there's less funding coming out in a short session.
Yeah.
It has to be expected in a supplemental year.
What high school?
What high
program?
schools?
They have a very small program that's geared towards students in recovery for drug addiction. And those small programs are expensive. And there's a massive deficit, and the state legislature didn't get anywhere near closing it, so they're probably closing that program this year.
Yeah, they were out in front of the building, like getting petitions and folks from the program and people had graduated out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One follow-up question on your note. I was just trying to understand the note about the special education funding. Is this saying that SPS should be receiving the special education
Well,
funding
so
up to the
they-
percent they need?
Mm,
I mean, I know.
Yeah.
Regardless of the amount of actually how much it costs to do special education in Seattle, which is a different question, but are they gonna get the
So they're no longer capped on the percent of students, well, they are still capped,
still cap, but.
but it's above the percent the SPS has, but the amount of funding allocated is not anywhere close
That's, okay,
to
that's the
covering
difference.
the need.
Yeah,
And so I don't know, I don't know how they're gonna square that circle, because statewide supposedly schools are suddenly not capped at their percent of students below the level of
17.5%.
need.
it's not.
But they didn't allocate the funds, so. Yeah,
Lawsuit.
yeah, well, that's, gonna take decades and then they'll win, but the one thing for funding, is that the state legislators have to be.
They have to allocate it.
Yeah, and they just will tell you to your face, like I had a meeting with a couple this fall and they were just like, no, they're not underfunded. And I was, what? They are, like closing schools, just like, nah, they'll tell you that, but it's not true. This is what our Seattle representatives say to parents who are asking them, when are we gonna fund our schools? Yeah. Yeah, it's fun.
Coming
Yeah,
from
school closure
Eastern-
plan will wake a few people up.
Coming from Eastern Washington, where there were, a lot of smaller schools, you get a really high needs kid and all special ed kids are funded for the same amount.
Seems,
Mhm.
yeah, I wasn't.
So you have this huge high needs kid in a small district.
Yep.
And it just
Correct.
it bankrupts the district.
Well, just before, we're gonna move to our,
Just one.
yes.
One additional thing, just on the like infrastructure capital side, they did end up expanding the cost per square foot by like the biggest amount they've increased it in, I don't know, 20 years, or maybe even longer. So I think that will help Seattle schools less because the cost per square foot of construction here is so high, that, what the state is funding is not that much of it. But it will help Seattle schools and it will especially help schools out in the rest of Washington. So that's really good. The amount of local share versus state share will shift and it will be less required of local schools. So potentially it will be easier to respond because you won't need quite as much. And the state will be funding a bigger portion through their through their formula for new and modernization projects. So that's some amount of good news, at least on the capital infrastructure side for schools.
Rumor has it that some schools in Marysville have shower curtains for doors, so any kind of fog.
Absolutely. Wow, and so, okay, I was just looking at my notes, just so I can tell you all the specific ones I spoke with this fall were Joe Wayne and Fitzgibbon. And Joe Wayne is the one who explicitly told me, he's like, nah, it's not sure, they're not underfunded, nah. So just so you all know, Fitzgibbon also.
He was at his kid's school when we spoke to him too, like.
Yeah, yeah.
He was
Margaret was
speaking
there.
to us from at school saying that schools have enough money. I was like, okay.
Yeah, and they specifically said, they're looking at closing the schools. Do your kids go to SPS? And he's like, yeah, my kids go to SPS. They got enough funds.
Okay, we can continue this conversation later. We have an SDOT presentation with Elizabeth and Brian. I don't know if we have
Yes, both of
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for having us today. I know we don't have a ton of time. I think we have 20 minutes on the agenda. I'm Elizabeth Wooten. I work at SDOT. I'm in the project development division along with Brian, and I'm the planning lead on the Aurora Avenue project. For today, let me just share my screen so y'all can see the presentation. Is that coming through for y'all?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So Brian's going to provide some background of the project and the status update. I think you guys got the slides in advance, and because we don't have a ton of time today, we're probably going to breeze through a few things, including, the previous outreach that we've done and what we're doing now in terms of outreach. And then the draft community ideas and evaluation criteria. We probably don't have time to get into detail on each of those, but I encourage everyone to go to our webpage to learn more and take our survey. And then we'll dig a little bit deeper in the interim spot improvement program that we have and the upcoming near-term improvements. I think that those are probably of interest to you all. And then we'll share some of the next steps and take some questions. I'll hand it over to Brian here.
Great. Thanks, Elizabeth. Brian Doherty. I'm the Deputy Director of the Project Development Division at SDOT. And I previously was the Safe Routes to School Manager, and I used to be the staff liaison to this committee. So this committee has a real close place in my heart. But I'm going to give you the background about, what brought us here to the Aurora Corridor project. So we've identified this corridor as a very high need and desperately in need of love corridor for a long time. And we actually tried to address that need about 15 or 20 years ago with a grant that we got from the Washington State Department of Transportation. But unfortunately, we weren't able to implement the changes that we proposed because of some challenges with drainage and outreach with some of the businesses who didn't want to see a whole lot of changes on the corridor. But we're giving another swing at it and really hoping this time is the win because this corridor has 19% of all traffic fatalities citywide, and even though only 6% of the collisions involve pedestrians, it's 70% of all fatalities on the corridor. So it's a really high need for pedestrians. It's missing sidewalks, which is hard to believe, that a state highway in Seattle would be missing sidewalks, but on the north end of the corridor, there's many missing blocks of sidewalk. It's one of the busiest frequent bus routes in the city. It's a major truck street. It's an oversized truck street. It is missing bike connections across the corridor, and there's no continuous bike route on the corridor or even adjacent to the corridor. And of course, it's lacking greenery, it's lacking street trees, and north of Green Lake, it's basically doesn't have drainage. A simple way to say it, but basically it doesn't have any drainage north of Green Lake. Next. Gosh. So we started this process about 3 years ago. We engaged Metro, and Metro was like, yeah, we want to partner with you on this. This is like our busiest bus route, and we have plans to make major capital investments as well in the future. So they were a close partner at the beginning. The Washington State Department of Transportation also at the very beginning was like, yeah, we'll partner with you. We identify this as well, that we want to make changes on this corridor. Seattle Public Utilities, again, there basically aren't really any modern drainage facilities north of Green Lake. They partnered with us as well right from the start. And OPCD wants to update the neighborhood plan in the Licton Springs neighborhood. So they have been with us from the very beginning. And then we've got a huge list of partners that we're coordinating with, including Seattle Public Schools. There's schools up and down the entire 7 miles, basically. Middle schools, elementary schools, high schools. Kids are crossing and walking along Aurora all the way from Queen Anne all the way up to Shoreline. Next. So we're at the very beginning of this process. I said we started this 3 years ago, but this is going to be a long process because we want to make big changes on the corridor. And so right now we're just at the concept evaluation process. Next. So about, like I said, 3 years ago, we got a grant from the Washington State Department of Transportation. It's a pedestrian and bicycle planning grant. So that gave us the seed money for this project. We also got partnership with Vision Zero, which is going to fund some short-term implementation of safety projects. So again, I mentioned this is going to be a long process, but we also said we want to do some quick wins. We identified this as like, we need to do some stuff right now. So Vision Zero is going to allow us to do that and has allowed us to do that. And Elizabeth will talk a little bit more about that. We also have a little more than $2 million in FTA, which is Federal Transit Administration funding. And with that, we'll need some local funds to match the grant. So we've got the Seattle Transit Measure on board to provide those matching grants. And then super excited to say that we have $50 million from Washington State to make big changes to the corridor. And I'll just put an asterisk on that. The funding is from the Climate Commitment Act, which is going to be on the ballot in November. So if that is repealed, then the $50 million goes away. Next. Elizabeth, I was going to do outreach, but do you want to just kind of breeze through this?
I'm going to breeze.
Okay.
So we've been doing a ton of outreach over the last year or 2 years even, trying to reach out to folks that are on the corridor regularly, folks that live, work, travel on the corridor. And we did a lot of engagement in 2023 to hear what people's ideas, mainly what their concerns were, but also what their solutions, potential ideas for the corridor are. So top concerns, I don't think it's a surprise to hear that lots of people are concerned about crime and personal safety on the corridor and the lack of enforcement. But second to that was pedestrian safety and accessibility. So, more frequent crossings and better sidewalks, collision reduction, lowering speeds, making signal improvements, and then general infrastructure, as Brian mentioned, drainage, visibility, lighting, signage, things like that on the corridor. And then in terms of top solutions, so we tried to develop a kind of a vision in our community workshops that we did over the summer, and most participants see Aurora as a vibrant community like want to see a future where Aurora is a vibrant community where people have spaces to interact, more trees and greenery, and more businesses and activities along the corridor. I think, someone mentioned wanting to be able to hear birds chirping while they're on Aurora, which today seems pretty difficult given the conditions that are out there. At the same time, we also heard, a smaller group, but definitely another voice that, Aurora is a critical arterial that makes neighborhoods north of Seattle more accessible. So there are still, there's also folks that see it as a arterial that moves traffic. So there's a conflict there that we're going to need to continue to think about and address as we move forward. There was definitely consensus about road improvements, changes that would physically change the experience on Aurora and not make it so much of a through traveling corridor. And then the consensus around better sidewalks, widened sidewalks, new signalized crossings, and improved lighting. So we're here. We launched our survey in March 6th, and we have it open for a whole month. We plan to close it April 5th. Definitely, please tell folks to go and look at it. Please all go visit our webpage. We also have one more open house coming up on March 21st in Bitter Lake Community Center from 6 to 7 at night. So welcome everyone to join us there. And as we do this outreach, I think, these are the kind of the key messages that we're bringing along. So one of the key questions of our survey for the draft ideas that we've released is, do you see your vision or priorities on Aurora Avenue North in at least one of these ideas? And is there anything that we're missing? So we really want to make sure we have the right ideas on the table before we go through our evaluation. The draft ideas that we've released are meant to reflect what we've heard through community feedback, as well as, the site conditions that are out there, some of the existing condition data that we collected, and like just standards and technical requirements that we have. And then they're also meant to represent a broad range of ideas. So they are distinct from each other so that we can kind of start to think about in what segments, where do the priorities lie, and what are the potential benefits trade-offs. It's important to remember that these are not necessarily proposals. They're still ideas at this point. We're very early and conceptual, and they've not been fully vetted for feasibility. That will happen, as we move forward. And some of the ideas, might not advance, but others might be combined. They might change. So still very early in the process. And so here, I don't think we'll have time to go through all of these. So I'm just going to do the quick overview. There's pretty similar concepts across the corridor. So the whole corridor is 7.5 miles. It goes from the SR 99 tunnel in Queen Anne at the south end, that's segment 1, all the way to the city limit at 145th, that's segment 5. And we've broken it up into these 5 segments, mostly based on, land use characteristics, and roadway conditions. So segments 1 and 2 are both 106 feet of street width or right of way that we have to work with, whereas segments 3, 4, and 5, everything north of Green Lake basically has 90 feet of right of way for us to use. And so in segments 1 and 2, we have 3 concepts. That's the walkable boulevard, bike connection, and center running bus lane concepts. And then in all of those concepts for segments 1 and 2, which has higher ADT, so more vehicle volumes on those 2 segments, we maintained 2 lanes of traffic in those concepts. So similar to existing conditions. In segments 3, 4, and 5, for the walkable boulevard, bike connection, and center running bus lanes, all of those represent a lane reduction. So going from 2 lanes in each direction and plus bus lanes to 1 lane in each direction plus bus lanes. And so for that reason, in segments 3, 4, and 5, we've also included a 4th concept, which is maintain vehicle capacity, which maintains those 2 GP lanes in each direction. All of these concepts include, better lighting, pedestrian scale lighting, more crossings, especially at least at every bus stop pair, but potentially other locations that have yet to be determined, and some sort of bus priority, whether it's on the sides, in the curbside lanes, or in the center running concepts. So those are the concepts. That's the overview. In the materials we sent are the 3 106 feet right away, so segments 1 and 2 concepts, as well as the 4 90-foot concepts segments 1, 2, 3, or segments 3, 4, 5. Is that a hand raised in the room?
Yeah, I looked at these and I have a big question about, you just mentioned a number of things that are included in every single option. And it's, a certain amount of vehicle capacity, lighting, sidewalks, a few other things that are considered baselines that have to be in there. But in every segment, there's only one option that includes bike lanes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how that, so we only have one option for bike lanes. We're not looking at any potential configurations other than that one. Most of the options don't include bike lanes. How is it decided that some things are fundamentals that must be included in every option, but bike lanes are not among those things?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And as I said, we're still early in the process, and they were meant to be kind of distinct from each other so we could understand like the trade-offs better as we do our evaluation. That doesn't mean that in the future things won't get combined. So I think that that's the feedback we're looking for right now, interest in that combination. I think, one thing to note and just to be aware of is that the Seattle Transportation Plan, as currently drafted, does not have bike lanes on Aurora Ave except for the section that's already implemented near Green Lake. And then there's a further studies section near the Washelli Cemetery. So that's something just to keep in mind in terms of like what our citywide plans are for the bike network. But I think that as we move forward, something that we're definitely being very aware of is where are there definite like good parallel alternative routes and where are there not, and where are there like corridor destinations that we want to serve, and maybe the bike facility doesn't look like this, or maybe it's a shared sidewalk to provide a last block connection, or so we're looking for more feedback in terms of what people feel like is needed out there. I will say that in segments 1 and 2, where we have a little more right of way to work with, that kind of hybrid option is going to be more feasible potentially. Whereas in segments 3, 4, and 5, where we only have 90 feet of right of way, I think it will be a challenge to get, a robust pedestrian environment, a robust bike environment, and a robust transit environment that's all safe, provides safe crossings, manages traffic at intersections. All those things are going to be kind of a challenge with 90 feet of right of way. So that's something we'd have to, dig into more as we move forward. Brian, do you have anything to add about that?
I was going to, but you actually covered everything that I was going to touch on. And except that maybe I was going to say that even though these are distinct ideas, like moving forward, they can be mix and match. So they're not meant to say that like only this option can have bikes, like only this option can have people. Like they're meant to be like visions, and we can definitely like alter them. They're not like static.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it's just, it's frustrating to see bike lanes in only one option, right? So there's only one configuration. It's very standard. We're not looking at any other, like what do we want? We have a lot of places where there's a 2-way cycle track in the city. That would be an option that is not captured here. So we're not looking at, when they're only included as one option that we might have in this one choice. And sure, maybe we'll stick them in another later. We're not considering the options for the bike lanes, right? The alternatives that could be for bike lanes.
Yeah, that's a good comment about the type of facility. I think the 2-way is, works well when we have like some sort of a edge treatment. So like through the park or through the cemetery, or where there's kind of a barrier, when there's lots of crossings. Two-way bike facility on a 2-way street with major intersections can be a very challenging environment to provide a safe facility. So we would have to think really carefully about that in certain segments, but there are definitely some segments where that might make sense, and we would love to hear feedback.
I mean, there's the option for the center bus lanes, which, might be, I don't know, but that seems like, oh, well, what if there was a center 2-way cycle track there? There could be, I don't know. We don't see any options here for bike lanes. There's just like a bike lane or not. And so that's where I was disappointed not to see any bike lane options.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the feedback.
I guess
yeah.
Got 2 comments. Number 1, in the short term, we're hoping to see stoplights or those stop cameras, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 of those along the road. And for safety for the kids. But in the long term, I don't see anything for Woodland Park area or the Big Aurora Bridge. What are your plans there?
Yeah, these draft concepts are, can't reflect the conditions at both Woodland Park and the Aurora Bridge because they have different like space constraints and different structure. Like the bridge is obviously a structure and has different challenges to it, and we don't expect that the bridge is going to be rebuilt in the near future. So we'd have to work within some of the existing parameters that the bridge includes. And the Woodland Park area has, it has the 106 feet of right of way, but the current configuration has the fencing within the public right of way. So there's some challenges there. There's also opportunities. I mean, it's a different character with the park and the zoo on either side of it. It's never, we don't anticipate that it's going to have different types of land use there anytime soon. So like maybe there's a different type of facility, like a two-way facility on one side that could provide the connection we need to get people along through that corridor and connected to the different types of ways to enter the park and the zoo. So I think that will be the next phase of planning where we have to kind of go through those details. It was just hard to capture those details in this like early phase where we're trying to understand priorities along the corridor. But that doesn't mean that you can't share feedback in our survey about that, because there is open-ended opportunities to provide feedback about your ideas for those locations as well. Any other questions about the draft concepts or the ideas themselves? And then you mentioned, I think you were mentioning red light enforcement cameras or.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm not a specialist on that topic, but I know that, as you were mentioning earlier, there's been some changes recently. So to the way that we potentially in the future can process those, and also where we can put them. Hopefully someone else who knows more about that program would be able to come and speak to that. But I think that we are doing some near-term improvements on Aurora. We've already done some, and we have plans to do more next year. So already we've installed no turn on reds throughout the corridor at signalized intersections. LPIs have been installed at most of the signalized intersections as well. That's the leading pedestrian interval I think you guys mentioned earlier. We're talking about crosswalks have been widened, or will be widened later this year and remarked to make them more visible. And then we're also in the process of designing and permitting through WashDOT some construction projects, including a new pedestrian signal at 137th Street, which is a future neighborhood greenway connection. That would have a center median that restricts turning movements at that intersection and reduces conflicts. In addition, center medians or some sort of barrier is planned to be implemented at 103rd Street, 128th Street, and 143rd Street. That would again help to reduce turning conflicts and improve safety at high crash locations. And then we're also looking at hardened center lines. So that's basically like a mountable but raised extension of the center line through the intersection to discourage fast turning movements and slow cars down as they turn over the crosswalk. And those plan to be installed at any intersection where there's not a protected left turn phase. So where there's a conflict between the walk and the left turning permitted left turns.
I can address the camera comment, but first I'd like to get some clarification. It was framed as a red light camera, and I just want to make sure that
I meant to say what is that called?
The
speed cameras.
Speed cameras like we have in the schools zones around here.
That's what I thought you meant. That's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear.
I have the old age problem with the right word coming to mind.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure I was addressing the right thing. So we have looked at that in the past. And specifically at Bagley, we took the idea to WashDOT and said we were interested in putting cameras at Bagley which is at 80th, I think. And WashDOT was not very interested. And even yeah, I'll just say that. And so now that we have expanded authority to use them, I think that we'd like to look at that issue again. So if you would like us to look at that again, we would love to get a letter of support.
Okay.
I'll be on the subcommittee for the letter for support.
Okay.
There though.
You're not gonna write the letter?
No. Sorry.
You're a great letter writer, Margaret.
I'm a great letter writer, but I feel like I'm more of a central South End person, and I'm not going to capture the. Although I guess this is a good slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to show where the treatments that I just mentioned are in relation to some of the schools along the corridor. There's going to be more outreach about these particular near-term improvements, and in particular, like diversion traffic and things like that. So I just wanted to give you a highlight of that. And if you have an interest in learning more, digging more into, what these improvements include and what potential, mitigation might help depending on how they might affect the traffic circulating in the area, we can definitely get you lined up to hear from David Burgesser, who's been leading that from the Vision Zero side in a future meeting.
So yeah, if I don't think the slides that we got ahead of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is exactly what I was looking for. And then so you could send me and whatever else you just talked about. That sounded good, but I can't repeat. And if someone else would be on the subcommittee with me, I guess I can lead it.
I would be on the subcommittee with you because this is really close to where I live.
Okay, sounds good. Kelsey, would you?
Yeah, we can share this. This was a new slide, so I'll make sure that y'all get this one.
If I can plant another seed, the other place that a lot of kids cross is between BF Day and the middle school. What's the middle school called? I can't remember.
Hamilton?
Oh my God. Yes, that
Is
one.
it
Hamilton, Lincoln, and BF Day. So there's a pedestrian bridge right now, but it's not accessible. It's a staircase, and it's got a not very functional runnel. And so it's like, that would be a place where I would love to see, and this is just my personal view. I would love to see like an at-grade crossing there, but the speeds are so high. So like some sort of combination of like an at-grade crossing and speed reduction there at like at 40th, 41st, something like that.
Well, the speeds, but there are no at-grade crossings for a long time, which is part of why the speeds are so high. It's really been made into a freeway, right?
Exactly. So
the red light would be at 41st and what, do you think?
Roughly 41st and Aurora.
Okay.
Is a potential. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
Just planting a seed.
Right, like a lot of elementary schoolers are routed across that
Exactly.
bridge as well. And it's not, just as you said, it's not accessible, but also, like you can't get a stroller up it, right? Which makes it really hard for families to walk. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the principal has reached out about that.
41st.
Great.
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you have more slides. I have a question about the business, potential business opposition. If that's, here. Just many years ago in 2005, one of my first projects as a landscape architect was working on the Aurora corridor project in Shoreline. And there was business opposition. Everybody's worried that, it's going to hurt the business. They're going to have to wait through the construction. And then instead of this nebulous gravel zone where who knows how many cars can park, there's going to be a sidewalk and maybe reduced parking. And so there was a lot of, the exact same problems, right? Exact same concerns from the business. But, we did the open houses and whatnot and got it through. And after the fact, surveys showed that the business owners were very happy that business was, increased, and that the same business owners who had opposed the project in advance supported it after. So I'm just wondering, have you considered, reaching out to actual business owners who've been there that time, you know, like maybe there could be like a mentorship if they'd be willing to talk to businesses opposing the changes on this side.
A good idea. Yeah, we've been working with the city of Shoreline and Edmonds because they are, you know, they have and are working on improvements to SR 99. And yeah, that's a good idea. I think one of the challenges that, or it's not a challenge, it's just something that we are where we're at right now. We have less right of way in our part of 99 than Shoreline or Edmonds, and I believe their projects involved, at least I know Edmonds involves some amount of acquisition. And so that's something we haven't really included in any of these ideas, and something that, you know, I think that all their cross sections do include at least 2 lanes in each direction for general purpose. So that's just something to keep in mind. And so might be one challenge we have comparatively, but I think that's a great idea.
So Shoreline definitely also acquired right of way as part of their project, which in Seattle's case, if we decided to go that route, we would be tearing down buildings. So that's why we decided not to go that route. So like if you think of like, especially the Green Lake area, the buildings are at the right of way line. So like we'd be tearing down an entire business district if we acquired right of way. So that's why we decided not to go with that option.
But still, they're gonna have some of this, you know, there are places in Seattle that have this same sort of like, it's a gravel shoulder and people park there, and if I lose my parking, what's gonna happen to my business because there's a sidewalk in front of it now?
Yeah.
You know, they're the same concerns, right?
Yeah, the parking concerns are very similar. It's a good point.
I have a speculative question. I know you have $50 million with a question mark next to it. What does it look like with or without? How would that affect?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the 50 million, which had previously been, there's proviso language that had limited it to a certain portion of the corridor, but we have heard that has proviso language has since expired. So it could go towards design and construction of any segment of the corridor. We know that this project is going to cost a lot more than 50 million. Even one segment or one phase of the project will be more than 50 million. So that money really is, as we're looking at it, is kind of local match to get some sort of very large infrastructure grant. And so that's the challenge. It's not easy to raise local funding sources to match these larger grants. And so that's kind of how we plan on using that money. And yeah.
There's also a levy expiring this year, and there's going to be a new levy on the ballot, and maybe your voice would help get money for the project through that.
Yeah, that would be another potential local funding source on the horizon.
Yeah, we're a letter writing business.
We do have a letter on that coming up. You can stay on the call and comment when that comes up on the agenda today.
I'm not commenting anymore. I've done enough damage.
So many seeds. You guys are going to have a lot of weeds soon. Yeah, I think we're over time. So I want to respect your agenda. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out, and definitely go to our webpage and take our survey, provide feedback. That's what this is all about. So yeah, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Brian.
Yeah, and if we could have somebody from Project Zero come at some point to talk about spot improvement, it'd be.
We can make that happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was nice to see you all too.
Margaret, speaking of levy priorities and collaboration.
So I wrote a letter, and should I try putting it up on the screen, or what do we think? That's probably not gonna work, but I can give it a shot.
Can you also attach to the chat if you of us are logged in the screen and put it in the chat? It's a.
No.
Oh, too much.
We'll
work with that.
Do you want to give a background of?
Yeah, so we, as Estat just reminded us, there's a new transportation levy coming up, and is that showing?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, it is showing. Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
Oh,
You got it.
me. So there's a new transportation levy coming up, and there's been a sort of concern among various entities who want to make it safe to get to school without a car around you, that the current plan is just to sort of be austere and minimal and private car focused, which, you know, is a problem for people who don't use cars, which, you know, most kindergartners don't have their own cars. So drafted a letter basically saying that in terms of students making it to school safely, we need sidewalks, safe crossings of arterials, and other traffic controls to make the physical environment safety. And this is both, you know, specific to school students and also to making our neighborhoods more vibrant, because the more people walking and rolling, the more people get to know each other. And I do actually have a little shout out to Aurora Avenue following the previous discussion. And I knew that this was an issue, but actually, once again, not knowing the North End, I couldn't mention the schools. So I guess if people want me to stick in some names there in that paragraph, BF Day or something, that'd be great. So I don't know that this stuff about, I wanted to like make it multimodal. I know that Metro schedules are more about King County stuff than the city. But it is.
The city funds a bunch of Metro routes and, you know, chooses what they want to prioritize. So it seems perfectly appropriate. Do you know if it's funded out of levy dollars though?
It's funded out of a different,
Okay.
The Seattle Transportation Measure.
So maybe that's not the right venue.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is, as we were just looking at in Aurora, like where there's space for buses to go is decided by SDOT. So I don't know if people have thoughts on taking that out or adjusting it to make it, you know, because, you know, anyway.
I see. So you're saying advocating explicitly for like bus only lanes, which right would be coming in this levy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not sure how that ties to school traffic safety. So I thoughts on that paragraph are particularly interesting. I mean, I'm particularly interested in those. So.
I would, just one paragraph back, I think the Aurora Avenue is a great example. I think if we had one or two other busy arterials that were worth citing.
Rainier.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to.
How about your 35th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some stats, right?
Yeah.
Ooh,
And
wow.
okay,
Good.
is the other one I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah. I'd put that above the signatures.
Okay.
Put it in.
Yeah.
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 You think that's more important than my name? What? Just kidding.
Ah!
Your fancy signature.
And then on the multimodal and bus, I like the recommendation to focus on like bus stop infrastructure and bus lanes for middle and high school commuters.
Agree.
Right, 'cause some of it's great when it's done with like the rapid ride stops, but a lot of the schools are served by the smaller community bus routes, right? And they don't have any infrastructure other than the metal stick.
Yeah.
the sidewalk.
So are you saying keep that or
Yeah,
adjust?
I think you made a comment about, the comment on the Metro bus was running in at times directions, right? I was suggesting perhaps removing that and focus more on, safety around the bus routes. With, I'm not transportation person, with the right words, like curb improvements at bus stops and bus only transit lanes.
Yeah, you might, one thing that's frustrating is a lot of bus stops don't have shelters. And we've heard from Metro that that's, where they can put a shelter is limited by how much space there is on a sidewalk, right? So that would be something that could be explicitly targeted in the levy, is making space on sidewalks for bus shelters.
Could you go by a middle school and the nearest adjacent bus stop, right, block or two away, you'll just see a pile of kids waiting for a bus or two sometimes to come by, and there's 20, 30 middle schoolers in a small area that doesn't block the sidewalk.
Like a 5-foot sidewalk, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that not just middle schoolers are still developing risk assessment. High schoolers as well. Yeah.
Children are still.
Yeah. People under the age of 25 don't develop frontal lobe.
Yep. Most of us can personally testify to that.
Yes. Everybody that was a young person once.
So, okay, so should I take out this a little bit about buses at times and directions? Because
It's probably not the right place for it, although I always want to point that out.
I know.
To, well, okay, I don't know what to say there.
I think a period is exactly where it needs to be.
Okay.
And I would say you could add, you've got the elementary school students cross Aurora Avenue North. You could just say they cross Aurora Avenue North and Rainier Avenue South, just as two examples instead of just the one. Fortunately,
I guess my thought was, I thought we didn't have anyone crossing Rainier Avenue South because we were so.
We do.
Oh.
we do. We were just reviewing this in the walk boundary subcommittee. Where they cross, it's not, we currently, it's far enough south that there's a little less traffic and there have been more improvements, and it's not as, we don't have them crossing where it's really scary. But at the same time, it's, students need to get across there to get to school. Right now they're bused, but they miss the bus. Their family needs to go across to go to school. They, they have to get across these roads. Yeah. And we wouldn't need as many buses if Rainier Avenue South wasn't so dangerous to cross.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and I assume, per usual, it's going to be on behalf of the volunteer members of the committee.
I'd be delighted to sign it.
Yeah.
I move that the volunteer members sign this letter.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passed.
I'm assuming that we don't want everyone to have to send me images of their signatures so then I can forge documents for them. And we'll just get type names. I think that's okay in the digital age.
That's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Ryan Kelsey.
Perfect.
And me.
No.
And Noah.
No.
This is why we're doing it on screen, so I don't. Okay, thanks. And who's my subcommittee for the, oh, Marilyn got it, the subcommittee for the Aurora letter, okay.
Yeah, Kelsey.
I think it's you and me. Kelsey.
Perfect.
planting the seed, but if there's any. Sorry, y'all.
It's spring.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking it'd be really cool to get youth voices on some of these letters or have youth write letters. I don't have like a structure built out. It'd be nice to compensate them if they're working on stuff like this. But if we had some sort of like, I don't know if Margaret, do you have a template that you use for drafting letters? I know at least one youth that I met at the Youth Transportation Summit attends Lincoln, and they were super engaged in work around Aurora and 45th, and are excited to get plugged in. So it'd be cool to offer opportunities for high school students who might be interested in supporting our work.
That would be connect, with English, writing letters, that kind of thing that they have to do for different courses. If that could be plugged in, that would be a really good advocacy letter.
Yeah, there's
They
a
kind of like
persuasive
community service.
Persuasive letter.
letter
Yeah, that
you
they
have
have
to do
to
in high
have.
school.
Yeah, persuasive letter.
My fourth graders class is doing persuasive writing, and she's like, I chose my topic. It's that we should only have buses and bikes, and there should be no cars. Yeah.
Well, you're Green Lake, maybe they could have a persuasive letter on improvements. That would be a really good persuasive letter.
Yeah.
From fourth graders.
Right.
Woo.
Yeah, it's hard not to be persuaded by a fourth grader. It's like, I'd like to be able to walk safely.
Right.
Across,
Yeah.
across.
As a parent of a fourth grader, I'm very easily not persuaded. Yes, yes, but my starting point is probably not. Tell me, and I'll have to think about it. And then I could-
I had to teach my second grader and my about to be kindergartner, but just because it turns to a walk sign and walk doesn't mean you actually enter the intersection, because cars don't necessarily stop.
Yeah.
You still have to look around.
Yeah.
Okay. We're on time. I just want to see if there's any.
So I got a future topic, which Margaret reminded me of, is that we're having our retreat in June, right? So I don't know that there's a ton of planning. Margaret said maybe she could host it again at that same group space as last year, but we should, just for future topics.
Great. Retreat in June, Project Zero. Any other future topics?
Date for that already?
Last year we did it as a substitute for our June.
Okay,
meeting.
so it's just the same time, same day.
But we did in the afternoon, so
But that was our first retreat.
yeah.
So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of that now.
We didn't have a real good turnout though. So
No,
that was-
right. We
Yeah,
don't
there's no like,
here.
because we always did it like that.
Right, yeah.
Well, the 21st is end of school for some
it's
public
the last
schools,
school day.
and it's 1 hour early dismissal, so afternoon would be a challenge.
Yeah.
So Marnie has a hand up.
Oh.
A lot of things.
Oh,
yeah,
I just wanted to say hi. I've been here. I'm actually working from Sandpoint Elementary today. I'm subbing for the principal today, but just wanted to thank you all and see if you had any quick questions before we dismiss. I know I heard
Join as a principal today.
Yeah.
I know, I'm Principal Campbell today. I heard conversation about school closures, that's, I think, top of mind for everybody. I happen to be pretty closely aligned with that work, so, I'll make sure that, that the concerns and needs and thoughts of this committee in general, and then around, safe routes is certainly embedded into any and all work.
Marty,
Thank
how
you.
about departures? Any word on the city council passing new rules on departures?
Yeah, I
Well,
don't, yeah.
No one has an update on
Yeah.
that.
No, I
actually.
don't
Well-
know anything, yeah.
There's a tiny little progress that Shonda is meeting with Richard from SBS. Richard Bassett, is that his last name?
Richard Best.
Best.
Richard Best.
Yes, they're meeting next week.
Yeah, but she also she just said
Oh,
more, she just sent that email that said, okay. She said she's like 110% sure it's gonna happen,
Oh.
that like progress is good.
Yes.
It's more
I-
updates, more public updates soon. It's been quiet for a while, but that she's feeling very good about it. So that was great to hear.
So we had previously said, don't do, or let's hold off on doing the, grab your, council member.
Yeah.
I think that we should reverse that action and now do the grab your council member. Or is that the
Well,
I think we should wait. Shonda was saying she would have an update soon, so I was feeling.
yes, I would wait.
Yeah,
'cause, you
give it
know,
another week or two and see what.
because 110%, that's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
That's not.
that's not done.
That's not done.
Like, that's not, it's gonna go.
We need a math class on that one.
Yeah.
Go back to algebra.
That is not mathing, she and Delia.
It's Shonda.
Shonda.
Yes, but,
CH.
CH.
okay, well, thank you, everybody.
ER.
Nice to see you, Marty.
Okay.
Move to adjourn?
Yeah.
That, no, are we not recording?